Hey guys, J-Man here, and we are today continuing our 80s fantasy versus. So we've been having a lot of fun doing this versus tournament, and let's take a look. I'll show everybody where we're at once we get everybody in here. Before we start, just super quick updates. There's not going to be anything this weekend, but I believe Monday night, Sean and Clobberin Times are going to be joining me to talk about the Legion of Superheroes. So we're going to be doing this pretty frequently. We're doing the second and third appearance of the Legion of Superheroes. So that's Adventure Comics 267 and Action Comics 267, coincidentally, both the same number. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I read them today, and it's going to be a lot of fun going through those because I love these old comics. So that'll be this Monday. Steven and I are returning for some wrestling talk on Wednesday. There's not going to be any Action Elite this Wednesday, so that's not going to happen. And then next Friday, we'll see. Maybe we'll even do this next Friday. I'll have to kind of see what everyone feels like at the end of this stream. Maybe we'll do. Maybe we'll just continue it on and get to our final four. But in order to get to the final four, we do have to go through this. So today we're talking about Ator, the fighting eagle versus Hawk the Slayer. So an eagle versus a hawk. Which one wins? We're gonna find out. And I'm gonna bring everybody in. I'm not gonna do all the intros. We'll just bring everybody in. So first up, we got Charlie. How's it going?
It's going good, man. How's it going?
Good. We got Steve.
Hey.
And we have Hungry Boy. Hungry for better sci-fi scripts. Today is and Charlie is Silly String of Doom,
Silly String of Doom.
Yeah, we know what that refers to. And we got Sean, of course. I was gonna wear Conan, then I was gonna wear Evangelion, and then I wore my Midsommar shirt. Not that any of those shirts match our topic.
Conan does.
Conan matches. Yeah, okay. So let's give everybody the inaugural Conquest Arrow. Okay, so we're going to do this using the space system. So story pacing, artistry, characters, enjoyment. Instead of giving a ranking or a number, we're going to say which one did it better and why. And majority wins in each category. Could not be reached is already here. How's it going, man? And Shooter, you are already here. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hi, Shooter.
Your votes for Hawk. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, man. I put a poll up. Hawk versus Ator. Let us know. Okay. So we do this. The normal way we do this is we just go around real quick for the first 10-15 minutes just to say our relationship with these movies. Right. Let's start. Let's start with Steve because I know Steve's answer already. So let's just go with Steve. He'll be the shortest. Steve, what's your thoughts on these two, or how did it come to pass that Steven decided to partake in these films?
You told me to watch these for the verses, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
I had heard of Hawk the Slayer before. That's it. Never saw it.
I'll give you a Tiffany.
I'll take it. Better than what I'm getting these days, so I'll take it.
All right, so first time for both?
Yeah, first
perfect. Time. All right, so you're the control. Hungry Boy, what about you? What's your thing with these two movies? Did you see them both from before, or are they? No, I definitely know one of them you've seen a few times, right?
Right. Well, when I think I was 20 or 21, and this is back in the days of Skinemax, and otherwise known as Cinemax, and late night cable, which would be sometimes uncut. And so I had seen Ator a long time ago. So I was stuck with these preconceptions about it, but I rewatched it again for this face-off. And I had been a lover of fantasy, high fantasy, classic fantasy ever since my mom read The Hobbit to me, and then that wonderful Rankin Bass TV special that's still to this day the best Tolkien we're ever going to get. And so then in 1970 or 1980, a friend introduces me to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and the Art of David Trampier, etc. And I was always hungry for that kind of stuff. And then immediately in 1981, this comes onto to cable, Hawk the Slayer, and I saw it. And I'm not saying this is going to affect my answer, but I fell in love with that movie from that moment, and I haven't lost the love for it. I may have changed my opinions on things, but not lost the love.
Awesome. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, well, we'll talk about it, but like it is D&D. Like it's like you can't. It's basically Krull. Like Krull versus Hawk would have been a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a good
totally.
one, right? You know, who's D&D game, and it's almost exactly like a D&D game, which I'll explain when I get to my turn. Okay,
So
Sean, what about you?
Dude. So many of my notes are all about how D&D it is.
Yeah. All right, Sean, what's your thing with these two?
I can't remember the first time I saw either of these. But with Hawk the Slayer, I had dim recollection of it. I remember the Spock guy, of course, that's Crow,
Right.
and all that stuff, and Jack Palance, and then you re-showed it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, this movie's awesome. I don't know when. I mean, this thing was like 1980. I thought it was a lot later than that, but I don't know. And Ator, I don't know when the hell I first saw.
Oh, we lost Sean. Hold on, let's try to get him back.
Am I back?
Oh, no.
You're back.
Oh, thank God.
Ator, I don't know when the last time first time I saw that either. I used to think it was a big giant epic that was like a Ten Commandments style, like, and I watch it now. I'm like, oh, okay, because it's slow. But anyway, yeah.
Okay, Charlie, what about you for these two?
Ator. I have always called it.
I keep saying Ator,
but
Ator, yeah.
But in the
So I
movie, they say
don't-
Ator.
Yeah, I don't care what the movie says. It's Ator. I know I had watched that movie way early on as a kid, probably on cable. I had almost no memory of it except for some brief glimpses, mainly the spider and a few
Right.
other things. But Hawk the Slayer, surprisingly, I'd only watched 2 years ago. Somehow totally got by me, and one of the other co-hosts we added, Pete, on his show Good Beer Bad Movie Night, their first episode was on Hawk the Slayer. And
cool.
he told me about it when I found their show, and I found it on Tubi and watched it, and I absolutely fell in love with that movie. Once again, one of those of like, I wish I had found it earlier and had more time with it, but I've watched it a handful of times since then. And so it was a natural to be in this tournament. So I actually watched it again today, even though I didn't really need to. I just wanted to, and I still love it. But yeah, Ator, I don't know. It just blends with so many other things in my memory of sword and sorcery movies that I think I just always thought I knew that movie. And then I just went, whoa, I must not have watched this but one time on cable. And that's the last time I ever watched it because I had almost no memory of the majority of the story. So it's interesting. It'll be an interesting talk tonight.
I've got almost the same thing. Well, I knew about Hawk the Slayer. The first time I had seen Hawk the Slayer, I believe, is when it came out on DVD, because I didn't own it on VHS, and so I saw it on DVD whenever that came out, like early on. And I remember there was a store that Starstruck Entertainment was what it was, and they would do little names for people. So I was gonna be Jason the Slayer because someone already there was already a Jason the Barbarian. I was like, I'm like, what? Because I had like kind of like it's on a pull. In comics, we have a pull list. So at this shop, it wasn't really like a pull list for movies, but it's like I'm like, okay, like, you know, when Rock and Roll Nightmare comes in, save me a copy. When, you know, like I would kind of like, you know, order stuff in
You're
advance.
on a VIP list.
I was on a VIP list.
Yep.
And that's even like Superman. I'm like, when the Blu-rays for that eventually come out. So it's like, I ended up like because they would sell out instantaneously. Like I picked up Phantasm. I think it was Phantasm 2 had come out, and that one was really delayed, and it sold out like immediately. Like I had my copy, but like someone else, like I went in to pick it up, and someone's like, "Do you have Phantasm 2?" And the guy behind the counter was like, "It's sold out." He's like, "How is he?" He's like, "Oh yeah, this guy's like, you know, already had it pre-ordered like 100 years ago."
Right.
So I was Jason the Slayer, but Ator, I had the same thing as you. Okay, so Miles O'Keefe, I've seen so many of those. You're right. His face is ingrained. Sir Gawain or sort of the Valiant is what we call it, the first Green Knight movie that I had seen. So I know his face, Tarzan, right? So it's like, and then all of the Ator movies are called something else, like Blade Masters Part 2, Iron Warriors Part 3, and then Part 4 doesn't have him in it, so I don't really even count that one.
Right.
I own Iron Master on Blu-ray, and I think I had seen, or Iron Warrior, I believe it's called. So I had seen Iron Warrior, and I was like, oh, did I have seen Ator? And it's one of those ones, yeah, I must have seen it. And then I watched it, and I'm like, I don't think I've seen it, or like you, Charlie, I saw it, and it just, because it's like,
yeah, it's like
Deathstalkers. I rewatched Deathstalker 2, which is actually a lot better than kind of Part 1, I think. But anyways, Deathstalker 2 is a masterpiece. But so I was like, well, let me watch all these. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't think so I have Ator on Blu-ray. I don't have Hawk on Blu-ray. So, and yeah, well, we won't give it away. We'll get into it. But I was a bit surprised. And it was funny too, because the girl in Ator, Sabrina, however you say her last name, she's the naked one with the gold helmet. She's Ulcron from Conquest.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't recognize her with her clothes on, right? It's like, what, you're wearing clothes in this? I don't know who you are.
You're referring to the actress who plays Rune, the blonde one who plays Rune?
Yeah.
Right.
The blonde. Yeah, she's Ulcron from Conquest. So that
well, hey, at least she's got range.
She does. We're gonna get to that because I was very upset at what happened in that movie. Actually,
Ditto.
I was super upset. I was like, "This girl's the best character here. I'm getting all her movies. I already own 2 of them, and Iron. I think she's in another one called like the Barbarians or something. The Sword of the Barbarians. I'm like, oh, I got to get that anyway. So she's in that too. Anyway. So yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. So we're gonna just go story, who did it better, pacing, all that kind of stuff. She's got range, yeah, she does. Well, she didn't even have her face in Conquest.
No, she didn't.
Right?
Yeah,
But I totally paid attention to everything she did in Conquest. It was
exactly
totally fine.
All right. So this, I didn't, this, I don't know. I was kind of thinking this is kind of close in some categories, but there's, one movie has a slight disadvantage to another, because of a couple of reasons, but let's go to the story. Who knows which one they like better?
I know who wins every category. In this
I know, and I know which one you're going to say,
Charlie's picking, so.
And I know which one Charlie's picking, and it was what I was going to say. But actually, I have a couple of things to say about the other one.
I was actually surprised.
Somebody,
this one. I thought one would definitely beat the other, and I was surprised.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go with. Okay, so you know what? Let's do Sean first. Sean, which one do you think has the better story?
They're both pretty cool, but like I would say the one I liked more, my favorite one was Hawk the Slayer. Right. Because I know you're gonna say it's a D&D campaign, but like to me it's a lot like a Western in that there's like this, this outpost that's being badgered, and they have to go to collect the guys and all that stuff. Right. It's like a miniature like a Magnificent Seven, right? So and I kind of like that, and the villain really keeps things going. Like he killed a guy per scene, right? So he's like, I gotta kill guys. He's like, I don't want to kill you, and then all of a sudden he just kills that guy anyways, like those 2 slaves or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like he's going to anyway. Yeah, no, I felt like the story for that one kept moving, and I was more interested in, that it's an A-Team episode. Like they go and they help these people. And I love A-Team, so
I love that reference there, Sean.
It is an A-Team episode. I thought of that too.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why I'm going with Hawk, man.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hungry Boy, which story do you like better?
If you'd asked me 5 days ago, I could have given you an answer like that. But on rewatch, Ator, and again, it's like, Namor, Namor, screw that. It's Ator for tonight, okay?
Okay, Ator.
Ator, Baba.
Ator sounds like something in Italian that's causing you pain in a bad way.
Yeah.
Ator!
Take this for Ator. Do you suffer from Ator? Take one of these.
Exactly, but on the rewatch, I'm like, I'm not sure that I was remembering this movie correctly, and it has a whole bunch of points going for it. But again, the whole story thing. I would, before we get on to rating things on a story, for me, Hawk is probably going to slide just ahead of Ator, because Ator's plot line was basically a sequence of vignettes, and it meandered a little bit. Although each individual vignette was great and much better in the second half of the film, Hawk was very consistent in its through line in terms of a script. We had objectives, and we had Jack Palance as a villain. And to back up something Sean's saying, Jack Palance used to be in Westerns. He used to play the heavy in Westerns.
Right.
Yep,
So he
big
knew
time.
exactly what he was doing. And I think he knew what he was doing more than some of the other people. But he was one of the few Americans or Canadians in the cast. And when we get to other points that J-Man will ask us to talk about, I'll discuss the cast in more detail. But it was primarily a British cast, and people who had been involved in Doctor Who, and people who had been in other ITV and BBC associated material. And so the Brits get really tight, or they used to get really tight on story quality, and they are used to going, okay, we've got enough budget to buy 2 shoes without holes in them, but we got to tell this entire story and make it look great. Whereas the Italians are like, hey, we show some buns, we have some pectorals, it no matter, as long as the fight is in, he look good. And I mean, let's face it, coherent plot has never been the mainstay of Italian films, particularly in horror or science fiction or fantasy.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
So for story, I am definitely going to have Hawk the Slayer edge it out. But we got other issues to talk about. For me, this is a neck and neck battle to the death, nose to nose.
All right. Okay. Well, let's go, Charlie. Well, I mean, this answers the answer for all of them, right? So, why is it Hawk the Slayer?
Because I didn't want to gouge my eyes out watching Hawk the Slayer. I'm watching Ator with this, like, I'm excited. I'm looking at the cover art. I'm looking at the cast roll, and I am just like, yeah. And then dude wants to fuck his sister. And I'm like, whoa, okay,
it's like the Brady Bunch. They're not.
No. If I have to get involved in a story and just get involved, that dude knew that was his sister, grew up with her. That first look in their eyes together, I was like, oh shit, yeah. I was like, oh God, no, please don't. Please just be some weird Italian way of saying that we have this brotherly love and sisterly love. No, let me go ask Dad if I can get permission. And then it's like, hey, Dad, you know our ancestors used to fuck each other's sisters. Can I? And the dad's like, hey, good news, man. I'm glad you brought this up. You're not brother and sister. I'm sitting there going, did they really just make the Jerry Springer episode? I really just like, they tried to make this okay. And I am not okay with anything that just happened. But
they were looking into the future and seeing Marvel Comics.
I was like, oh my God. And then it's this blends into the pacing and the story as well, but nothing happens in Ator at all. Like, what is going on? Nothing. I am so determined to not look at my phone when I'm watching a movie, especially if we're going to be rating it.
Yep.
I picked up my phone and I was like, oh shit, I need to pay attention. Oh, we're still on the exact same scene when I looked at my phone because he's messing around with the witch from Conan, only not as good. And I look back at my phone again and I look back up and he's still there. And I'm like, this has been at least 5 minutes. And I couldn't, man. And here's what I will say. Ator, I loved the story at the beginning, the voiceover, even though it's slightly confusing.
No, slightly.
Ator had a twist at the end that I was like, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, oh, come on.
But it fell on its fucking face the entire movie. It felt like 3 hours long, and it was an hour and a half. I was dying. And Hawk, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's watch. I knew it, but the first time I watched is what I'm trying to base it off of, going, there's a lot happening. Oh shit, this opening, there's a lot going on. Dude, the soundtrack's badass. Holy shit, more stuff's happening. Jack Palance is a badass. The whole movie And watching it again today, I'm experiencing it the same way, going, I fucking love this movie. This is so much fun. Like, I love the story. It's easy to follow. They're not fucking each other's sisters. We're good. So I'll say my other.
One is homework and the other is fun at recess, right?
God. I'm really starting to believe they did something before they asked Dad the way they looked at each other. Because I was just like,
it's a good question.
I was just, I was like, are you serious? And then so that she didn't get mad at dude for being on a quest with another chick, they kill her just so he doesn't have to explain who the blonde chick is to his new wife. Bullshit.
He could have had them both, right? Like, you know,
he could have done the Yor thing, man. It's like Yor can choose any he wants or both. That is how we do it here.
Everybody.
All right.
I yield to whoever, but it's Hawk. I'm sorry. I was heated watching Ator.
Yeah.
I really was.
Sean's rubbing his eyes. He's crying with laughter.
All right, Steve, what did you think after that one? Please say Ator just to.
I am going to say Ator.
Oh my God. Nice. How come?
I don't know. Like, I
Me
watched
neither.
the movie. The incest thing, yeah, it was weird. Right off the bat, I was confused. I was like, what? Why am I having the movie told to me by a narrator? Like, I hate that. I freaking hate that. When I saw Blade Runner, the original cut, and they had I was like Harrison. I'm like, why? I can watch a movie. I can figure this out. You know, but for some reason, while I was watching Hawk the Swear, and I literally watched it last night, I was like, I kept getting lost in what the hell was happening. Like, he went to get the giant, and there's this whole thing, and I'm like, is he getting the giant? I don't understand. Like, there was this whole vignettes, like scene, and then flashback scene. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I agree, Ator was slow as hell, but at least I knew, hey, he's with the witch for 10 minutes. Sure, at least I knew what the hell he was doing. I got lost.
What was he
Hawk.
doing? What was he doing?
It's called
for his sister.
Guys, it's in D&D. It's called a side quest.
Well, I will say the incest thing was a surprise when he's like, "Can I?" I'm like, did he actually just ask his father if he could marry his sister? I'm like, well, this will be interesting. Let's see what happens. He's like,
He was excited. He
know.
had a plan. If he had a PowerPoint prepared, it'd be like, no, look, way back, like great granddad, grandma was his sister, so that worked. So if we keep going down lineage, I know we kind of moved away from that, but
he was
Game of Thrones, man. Game of Thrones.
And then it was like, let's tell the whole village they want to fuck.
But they're not brothers.
Well,
I know, but they didn't know that.
I know.
I know that, which made it worse. I knew it going, what the fuck?
All right.
Anyhow.
Sorry.
The
I haven't even
incest thing-
finished my drink yet.
Oh my
this
God.
is true how mad this made me.
Yeah, I was just like, sure, he wants to marry his sister. Like, I guess back then that was cool. I don't know. Like,
She was
I was into it. I was following it. I liked the rune. Like, I liked that whole thing that they didn't actually end up together. There was this whole unrequited love, which obviously upset Sean because he just left.
Sean's like, fuck that, I'm out.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. The twist at the end, I didn't see coming.
I love the twist.
Like, that twist was really like, I was like, holy shit. Like Hawk the Slayer, I was in and out, like watching the story. I was just like, I was like, what's happening in like, what's Jack Balance doing? Oh, it's Ransom. Okay, cool. I don't know what it was. I was just like, it kept moving around, and I was just like, at some point, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm going to give it to Ator. I don't think Ator had a great story. But I did follow it slightly more than I was able to. Hawk.
All right.
Steven and I have to start watching movies together. I think.
I think
think. Dude, I'm going with Ator.
Oh, fucking hell!
You know what? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, tell me why. That's fine.
I'll tell you why. Okay, the last half of Ator was awesome, but the first half of Hawk was awesome. Here's what happened with Hawk Slayer, and that's a more not a childhood one, but when the DVDs come out like 20 years ago or whatever. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at least. Yeah.
so I've had Hawk in my life for 20
half
years.
of your life. Yeah, half
Half
of your
my life. And Ator I only seen once, just recently. The thing is that Hawk the Slayer, it's like you got to go on this mission, acquire these guys. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Mhm.
Acquiring each guy. We know who's going to win in characters, right?
Yeah.
Each character is weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Jack Palance is awesome. As soon as he acquires the guys, they hang out in the monastery.
Yeah.
Jack Palance kills someone. They're hanging out the monastery. Jack Palance is getting angry. They're at the monastery. There's an attack. They're at the monastery. They're eating. They're at the monastery.
Fair.
They attack the
Fair.
monastery. I'm like, yeah, you guys gave up.
Yeah.
I was stunned because, I play D&D and I'm like, oh my God, this is the unprepared DM. The characters went offside. They didn't follow it's like, okay, guys, so north is Jack Palance is north. It's like, okay, can we go south? I'm like, okay, you come up to this, oracle, and she says north is where we'll continue south. It's like, no, guys, like you have to go back over here. And I'm like, what happened? But once Ator, it is slow, but it's like he's learning to be pumped up. That's the thing that I like. For Sean knows that he trains, he gets weapons, he gets that girl. He saves, like they team up. I'm like, okay, then they go to fight this thing. She wants a treasure. He wants to get the girl. They get that cool weapon. They fight that shadow creature. They fight a giant spider. I'm like, there's a lot more cooler things going on. Yes, the budget and all that is not great, but he's facing off against cool. Like I started right there. I'm like, oh, shield that produces shadow creatures. I'm using that like next week on Spelljammer, right? Like I'm like, I was like, that's cool. Giant spider. There's that twist. I thought, oh, this is really cool. I don't know. I'm sitting there thinking, how can Ator store? How can I give? Before we start, I'm like, am I seriously going to say Ator on story? This is insane.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I was shocked.
I think it's kind of they tried cooler things.
You're a comic book person, J-Man. See, subconsciously, I know why you're doing this, and I wrote this in my 2 pages of notes. Okay. I was always a prepared DM. I always came in with like a novella for each adventure. Okay.
Well, I would wing things. Like if they went south, I would just make sure that the villain traveled south, because he had a caravan to kidnap or something.
But subconsciously, you're a fan of barbarians, and your comic books. And Ator is like the first 13 issues from the 1970s of Conan the Barbarian by Barry Windsor Smith, finding his chops, individual little adventures, Tower of the Elephant. Hey, we got King the Spider. Awesome. It all matches up. It feels, and you even look at the guy playing Ator, and these are in my notes for later. He's got the bone structure of Gil Kane drawing Conan mixed with some Barry Windsor Smith. The whole body type is actually Gil Kane 1972 to a T. Ator is 100% like a comic book movie pretending to be a barbarian fantasy movie.
I agree with that. I get like heavy like Mark Singer vibes when I watched looking at him. Which is probably why I went like, I've seen Ator. No, I've seen Beastmaster 100 times. But I got that he's not like the hulking like Arnold character. He's the more light light on his feet, agile barbarian fighter. And I dig that about him. But I have 2 pages of notes too. They all say incest.
I have very little notes. My notes is just like one little thing here. But no, I don't know. The Schwarzenegger Conan's my favorite movie of all time. But Schwarzenegger is actually not really Robert E. Howard's Conan. That doesn't detract anything because I didn't read. My first experience with Conan is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I bought all the books and read it, and I have all those trade paperbacks of the shirt that Sean has in Savage Sword, all the trade paperbacks, and my tattoo and all. That's a different story. But Arnold Schwarzenegger is my hero. I read his book. I'm rereading his book again. I watch Arnold Classic. I'm in the middle of watching the strongman competitions that he just had a few months ago. So it's like I love Schwarzenegger, whatever, but it is not the Conan. I'm not a Zack Snyder robot. I can understand when something's not adapted exactly and still like it. I don't just say everything's a masterpiece anyways, but yeah, it's not Robert E. Howard's Conan. But this guy, Miles O'Keefe, is pretty. He's a bit skinny. He can't really be Conan, but he's a bit skinny, but he's pretty good. Like
he's Tarzan, basically. Yeah.
He's Tarzan. He's the
very
Baudelaire.
Tarzan.
Yeah.
I think
Alright,
one of the other things that
Barbarian
pissed
for an
me
al-
off.
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead,
for an
Hungry.
alternate.
Oh,
barbarian,
go ahead,
for
Hungry.
a
Go.
not Conan, for a not Conan character, he's fine. So like choose any barbarian other than Conan, you know, and that body type really works for me because it also visually, and I'm sure we're going to get to this in the space acronym. You know what visually works, the storytelling, the cinematic aspects, what physically worked in the movie versus what was possible on the script page for Hawk and what was obviously not on the script page for the Italians. And you want, if you're going to have a really good sword fight, you want someone with strength but also has speed, and you want to be able to believe they've got that speed and that agility.
Right.
100%.
And they're so agile they can work around marrying their sister. Boom!
All right, Charlie.
I like how you brought that all the way around.
All right, Charlie. Final word, and then you may as well just do pacing because I know what you're going to say. So
that's fine. Well, okay, I'll roll right into that. So really, my other biggest bitch about Ator was, had it not been for that amazing twist, that was the most bullshit final villain fight I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to shine the shield on you and you're going to burst into flames. I have been having to watch this dude with spiders crawling all over his fucking head all movie, thinking this dude's badass. Like I'm trying to like get in the Thulsa Doom kind of vibe.
Right.
You know, I'm really trying to be like, everyone's scared of this dude. He bursts into flames and he's gone. And I was like, if it wasn't for that final twist from the wizard guy, I would have been like, fuck this movie completely. Like, you know, we shouldn't even be doing this stream.
Right.
But the twist saved it. But I'll go right into pacing because it's also going to be Hawk the Slayer, because Ator is slow as hell. Like I am not. They were stretching this movie. There were just scenes that kept going forever. If everyone that bitches about the Lord of the Rings and how that there are movies about walking, watch Ator, because it's a fucking movie about walking, and that's all they do. And then he hangs out in a witch's cave for like 8 minutes, and I already knew
that long.
Let's time it.
8 minutes is not long.
In an hour and a half movie, that's a lifetime in an hour and a half movie when I'm just waiting for something to happen. The best thing about the pacing in this movie is watching the fucking little bear running around. I love that little thing.
Right.
He was awesome. I love the bear. I was so excited when he showed up. I was like, yeah, look that little dude go.
Yeah, he was awesome.
They use him for actual moments of tactics.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, go distract him. He got the dogs riled up. I thought that was badass. Everything else is slow as fuck. Just slow. And Hawk, there is never a moment in Hawk where it slows down. Like there is always something going on. His talk with the Oracle / witch is pretty fast, and then we're already told what he has to do, which is gather the crew. I love how they did it. Instead of walking to each one, he's transported to each one. And each one is in the middle of some kind of fight or struggle, and Hawk shows. And I fucking love the dude that played Hawk in this. I just love that. He had like the stare down. He's like, look, people have heard of him. He was kind of like John Wick, because they're like, oh, Hawk, I know that name, Okay, Shooter, you were my favorite for a little while.
No, he's going back. He's going back. He's coming back.
Hawk is constantly moving. That is the only time they stop is in the cave, but somehow it's still moving along. That story keeps going. Every time Jack Palance is on the screen, I am glued to it. You're right. Every time he shows up, somebody dies. I love it. Hawk the Slayer, I wrote it down. It has a body count of 117. In Hawk the Slayer, a PG movie, even though they say fuck and there's a little bit of blood in this movie, but the 117 people die in this movie, and I love it. And I think Jack Palance does a good majority of it till the big battles. But it's so fast paced, and it doesn't feel like it's a hour and a half long movie. It just feels like I'm sucked into it, and I enjoyed every second of it. So once again, Hawk the Slayer, hands down, pacing.
All right, Steve, what do you think?
Before I say this, Charlie. Ator.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm
How?
telling you,
How?
I expected Ator to be slow. I don't know.
Oh.
And the witch, yeah, the witch thing was way too long, especially when it's like, don't touch the drapes, and then like
The drapery. Please don't touch the drape. Who the fuck
it's
says
just the
drapery?
Yeah. And that was like, really, I waited that long just for that punchline, which I could have figured out. But anyhow, here's the thing with Hawk. It's like they do a flashback, but they only do a piece. Then they go back to the flashback. They only do a piece. Then they go flashback. Then we do. I'm like, when are we getting to she's going to get killed, which I obviously knew was going to happen. 4 flashbacks to get to it. I'm like, really? This movie felt longer than it was. J-Man, I agree with you 100%. They're in that monastery for 400 years. I'm literally like, they're not fighting Jack Palance at the end. I literally became convinced that they were not fighting Jack Palance at the end. I'm like, they're just going to have the final scene. It's going to be the giant and the dwarf still going on about food. That will literally be the last scene, and then they'll just roll credits. Now, of course, that didn't happen. But Ator, here's the thing. Is it slow? Yes, but I understood it. I understood why it was slow. I understood he was gaining, as J-Man said, and him and I didn't talk before this, but I agree.
No, we didn't. We did not talk. I didn't talk to anybody. I was like, if I say
I
Ator's better,
so wanted to message you guys as I watched Ator.
We should have. We need to watch these together. Okay.
Yeah. So he's building up. I'm like, I get it. I get everything going on. The witch is the only thing where I'm like, you really could have lost this. But everything else, I was like, yeah, but it's what's happening. Like with Hawk, I was like, what? And how many times is he going back to get his face zapped by the wizard? I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, so for me, it's Ator.
All right. I want to say something
I still
too.
like you, Steve. It's okay.
I want to say something too about. Well, I guess I'll say it after. All right, Hungry Boy pacing. Which one's better?
Okay, so first off, let me just start by saying I admire Steph and Steve for being the Mike Stoklasa for this episode. And I'm sitting here like a strange transporter beam accident of Jay Bauman and Rich Evans when I'm hearing his responses. That's okay. Now for pacing, let me just say I watch a lot of Italian films and I watch a lot of Brit stuff. Okay, now the Italians. Number one, unless it's a crime film, they cannot do pacing to save their lives. And Brits are like addicted. They are like pacing junkies instead of heroin junkies. They're very, very good at it. And it goes back to the old Doctor Who days and in the 1950s, the Quatermass days. And so the other thing about pacing, and this, you can't really do this in comic books, but you can always do it in radio plays, films, and television. Humor improves pacing, and there's so much humor and good jokes for the fantasy genre, I'm saying, in Hawk the Slayer compared to Ator. All right. And any humor in Ator just basically falls flat or is completely accidental because what they don't know they're putting on screen when they're putting it on screen. With Hawk the Slayer, I mean the dwarf giant interplay is honestly very funny. The whole, we'll get to it, the holy food versus normal food. I love that. I adore that. The whole, and with the elf, I'm going to refer to him as Spocklass or Lego Spock instead of Legolas, because he is so emotionless and talks like a robot every single time. But that actually speeds up the flow of Hawk the Slayer. We're not getting this long, mournful elf missing his people who have all now passed on, who he's looking forward to and joining in the afterlife. I mean, they're just like, okay, character development. That was 2 seconds. You've had your time. Shut up. Let's move on. Yep. And they were vignettes, but they were important vignettes that actually interrelated to each other for the story. And if I'm enjoying the character acting, which for me is always at the forefront of my question for my enjoyment of a film, you have guys from Doctor Who here. The guy who plays the giant, Bresslaw, was one of the first Ice Warriors on screen in the 1960s in Doctor Who. Okay, and then you have other people from the Carry On films. and let's see, Katrina McCall, and she's from the Fulci movies. She's in this film, and it's just got this nice interplay between fantasy movies, which are kind of untried and untested in Britain at this moment, versus what they really know how to do in science fiction and horror. And it's done by ITV. They are used to knocking out 49 minutes for a television show plus a few ads, right? They're like BBC, but better in a lot of cases. And it's got sometimes it's got a little bit of feeling from Tygon, which was like Kmart Hammer horror, and I got to give the pacing to Hawk. I really do, because the pacing in Ator is really good for the last 35 minutes. But until then, I was like, man, I'm so happy to never have a girlfriend in the house, because I'm a major bachelor, but I could really do with a girlfriend for the first 45 minutes of this. So every 20 minutes I can say, hey, honey, you feeling frisky? And I take a break.
And you won't miss a thing, because you'll be like, oh, we're still on the same scene.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you got Hawk. All right. Sean, what do you think?
I don't think the pacing of either movie is good, but honestly, I'm gonna go Hawk, man. Listen, I dozed off twice watching Ator, and that hardly ever happens. So the thing is, like, I don't know what version of Hawk Steve saw. It's like probably a special edition or something. I don't know, but like, I can follow what's going on, and what I liked about Hawk is it things do lead into each other. I mean, like each time he transports to another area for those guys, it's a character setup. It's like, this guy's strong and he has honor, and this one, is mega good with the bow. It's like, that's what it is, right? And the whole flashbacks, I wasn't really bothered by that. I prefer that rather than a long drawn out freaking 10 scene thing where all this stuff happens like we get in movies today. Ator, I don't know. I feel like a lot of it's aimless. Like, what they're supposed to do, but like then they're wandering around for a bit, and then towards the end, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, the end's good." Yeah, the end's good because now they can get on with the movie. I just feel like I was really bored by Ator, and like I shouldn't be, because it's it's a kind of awesome thing, right? Like, he's wearing that He-Man harness and everything, and it's cool. And that bear's wicked, but
Right.
and I'm surprised they haven't used that in other movies. I mean, I don't know how hard that thing was to train, but like, he's really cute, but he's an asshole too. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Hawk for pacing. I just felt like it went smoother to me than Ator. There's just something kind of bumpy and long about Ator to me. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, oh god, I'm gonna go with Ator.
Yeah.
Ator. You know why? Look,
Steven can stand alone, J-Man. He doesn't.
I thought I would stand alone. My thing is that Ator built up. It was slow, and when it first started, I was like, oh god, that long story. I'm like, this is But the kid is born, and like, there's going to be a child with a mark. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then he gets a mark, and then that guy's like, I'll erase the mark. I'm like, I've never seen that in any movie ever. It's always like, oh, we got to hide the kid. We got to hide this thing. I'm like, he removed it. I'm like, that's awesome. It just kept giving me something cool every so often. It's like, now the girl comes in. It's like, the incest thing, it didn't bother me at all. Though I have been reading Fire and Blood. I'm on page 500 or whatever. It's all incest anyways in that. So I don't really. I never had a sister or a brother, so I didn't,
Yeah.
But anyways, my thing with Hawk the Slayer, the first half to me is killer. Like, it's like, bang, here he is. The flashbacks don't actually bother me. It's like getting that cool sword. Oh, the dad, he got it. The other guy, Jack Palance, didn't. It's like, okay, here we go. And then Jack Palance is just going crazy. And then, okay, now we've got a mission. Oh, I got to get my guys. But like, my favorite collecting guys is like Baron Munchausen as an example. And in that movie, the whole movie is collecting the guys, and then they all fight a big battle at the end. This one they collected the guys, and then they sat in a monastery for fucking half an hour. And I thought, what the hell? I literally thought, did they just lose money? And they're like, oh, we're going to have to just sit here. And the character stuff was fun. but they didn't go anywhere. They just sat in a, these guys in Ator explored places and moved to different locations and met different people along the way. So I don't think the pacing was good really on either movie. And I was not bored during Hawk the Slayer, and I was not bored during Ator. I was not bored with either at all. And I like both movies a lot. But I'm not seeing that. Like, I see that Ator is slow in the beginning, but then at least there's new cool things every so often, even if it's the Bear Cub just doing something cool. But like Hawk, I just felt like, why are they still sitting in here? Like, go do something. They're like, well, he might attack, he might not. I'm like, this is not strategy. Like, and then they went to go fight him. Like, okay, they fought him, and then said, okay, that's it. Let's go back to the monastery. Like, okay, so just finish the fight. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like they're like, we need to fill more time in, so let's have them sit around. Now they sat around and talked, and I wasn't bored, and I did find it funny with the giant, the dwarf, and all that. I like those characters. I like all that, but I'm like, yeah, but you're masking the fact that you're just sitting here not really doing anything. Yeah. Versus Ator they're still trying, maybe not successfully, but they're trying to go to another thing, and either taking their sweet ass time to get there. But I wasn't bored for either movie, so I don't really see the slowness of either movie. I like when Ator was done, I was like, shit, what the hell? That was really cool. I was like, there's that twist at the end. That girl got killed, which sucked. I liked her. It's like, this is pretty cool. Like Hawk the Slayer was done, I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I wasn't as excited about, like, I was just like, yeah, that was a cool movie. And I've seen it. I've seen Hawk the Slayer like probably like 5 or 6 times, and I've only seen Ator once. Ator has a lot. I don't know. I really liked Ator. It had a lot to live up to Hawk, because I was like, Hawk the Slayer is clearly the best movie out of all of this stuff here. Even when we did the tournament, I'm like, Hawk's one of the best movies on here. And now I'm like, shit, Ator is pretty cool. But things might change in the next category.
I walked in the house after I got done, because I didn't make Jackie watch this. Because after Conquest, I said, no, you don't need to watch these, because boobs and Deathstalker. I walked in the house. She goes, well, what's the movies you watching this time? I said, well, did Hawk the Slayer, which I'd seen before. And I watched this movie called Ator. And I straight up just called it Ator. And she's like, is that really what it's called? I said, no, it's called Ator, but I'm naming it Ator. Because like Sean, I almost fell asleep. Like I was dying.
Sean falls asleep on Crawl, so don't. Yeah, I wouldn't team up with Sean.
My boy so much hassle. It happens to the best of us. It's okay, Sean.
But about the monastery, the thing is, the Brits will actually create things and create sets, whereas the Italians will use stuff they already have access to. So for the Italians, I'm going to say, okay, you guys are smart. You went out, you found a real grotto, an actual Mother Nature created grotto, and you found 3 separate caves, and you created some stairs, and you could do shots for that. And
it goes down into the thing.
Yeah. But they created the monastery and the sets and built those for also where the nuns live. So once you spend that amount of your budget, like a third of your budget on something, you are going to put it in a third of the damn movie.
And there's 2 full fights in the monastery. Like the Jack Palance's son comes in, and they have a giant fight. Then it's not more than like 5 minutes afterwards that Jack Palance comes in. They have another fight in the monastery. The only like sitting around and waiting is just where they were trying to be like the nuns or whatever you want to call them. Were like, we'll pay the stuff and he'll keep his word. And they're like, yeah, no, he's not. You know, it was a little bit of that. And then the comedy. But there's 2 major fights in the monastery in this movie. So I never felt like there's nothing going on.
Yeah, I
feel like the fights are just like, what's happening? It's just randomness rolling around. And except for Crow with his arrow and his, quick edit.
Well, you had that arrows. And what's his name? The dude that was a Klingon in Star Trek all the time. The Morgan, the hell's his name? The one that's missing a hand. Yeah. He was one of the Klingons on the prison.
Oh,
planet.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he's Data's. Isn't he Data's dad?
I couldn't even tell when those guys got killed. That's my other thing. Like, I'm like,
well, who
survived this? Like,
that was like off camera almost, just to show.
Like that's what I'm saying. It's a bit weird.
The other thing that I guess we'll just keep it on with the pacing of it is at least in Hawk, they were contact fighting. Ator. They weren't touching swords in that movie. Like it was just whiffing at each other and people falling down. I had to back it up at the early beginning when they raided on the wedding, because I saw Ator fall down and I went, nothing fucking hit him. And I had to back it up and go, oh, if I look real quick, this dude with a club comes in and knocks his ass out, and then they kill his dad. But I was the choreography. I guess we can go into artistry.
Go for artistry. Yeah, we know it's Hawk, so
I'll
continue on.
roll right into artistry. If either of you pick Ator for artistry, we're really going to have a stern talking to off camera, because there's nothing in Ator whatsoever other than Ator himself. Like, he looks cool. I like the actor in that. I love his costume.
The girl's cool.
The girl is cool. I want to like his sword, but the damn thing looks like it was made out of aluminum foil the entire movie. It was always bent and flopping. I hated the montage of training. It felt like, we're going to do this one afternoon and you'll know eagle fighting because now you fight like tiger. And I was just like, this is stupid. This is horrendous. The makeup on the witch, I was like, at least give me something really cool and disgusting. I swear they mashed up fucking that face putty from one of the Hammer films and slapped it on her face and squirted it with water. Oh, she's a disgusting witch now. Horrible.
Not
Horrible
even Hammer,
looking.
dude. That's like a Roger Corman 1962 cheapo.
I think Corman would have been like, look, I could spare an extra $10, guys. We can't let that go. I wanted to like the spider if I could have saw more than the top of its head and 4 arms coming out. And then I was like, oh, it's going to come up out of the temple thing at the top. Cool. Nope. I just get a camera shot through the top of its middle part of its head.
Giant spider
and him shining a flashlight at the spider. I was like, it blew up the other dude. Why didn't it blow up the spider immediately? Hawk, it had everything as far as artistry. The choreography was 1,000 times better. The sword, look, I will give you this. A sword with a giant hand on the end of it was very goofy. Okay. And it's gripping an infinity stone the entire movie because it has the mind stone. But I love that it never flopped. I read that it was an actual straight up steel prop that was partially sharpened. Jack Palance got stabbed in this fucking movie, guys. He got stabbed and continued on with the shoot. Like, it punctured a part of him. And I'm like, that dude is a beast.
Well, he could do one arm push-ups, so, you know.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Jack Palance looked amazing in this. I love the piece coming off his helmet covering his scarred face.
Yeah.
You give me a character with a hammer, I am in. I love a giant hammer in these movies. They are so unused. You know, we got a little bit in Conan, but it was only in 1 or 2 scenes, you know, where they used the hammer. Until we got the redo of Thorgrim, but until we got like the newer versions of the Lord of the Rings where we got the dwarves, that's when we got badass hammers in fantasy movies. The scenery is 1,000 times better in Hawk. I felt like I was there. I didn't feel like it was Earth. It felt like some other place. Yeah. Ator, I felt like they filmed it at every other place I've ever seen a fantasy movie filmed. And the soundtrack of Hawk the Slayer. Jesus Christ, that soundtrack is amazing. It's got a tiny little bit of techno beat. Then it roars up into this concerto type thing. The only thing Ator had was some kind of fucking ballad at the end of the movie of someone singing what should have been a top 40 song in a sword and sorcery movie. And I was just like, are you serious with this? But it's Hawk.
So Hawk the Slayer is that you want to stick with?
Hawk.
All right. Steve, let's leave Steve for last, just in case.
Okay.
Just in case.
We'll get to you, Steve.
All right, Sean, what do you think has the better artist?
I just want to say for the record, I love when they have a weird top 40 thing at the end of these fantasy things. They did it in Barbarians with Ruby Dawn. I've had Ruby Dawn.
I expected it in Barbarians.
Yeah,
though,
I've had that at work ever since we did that competition because it's like Ruby Dawn. That's a great song, man.
Ruby Dawn.
It's awesome. I love
it. But yeah, and also I just want to say this. More movies should do that. Now it used to be that they'd have a big action movie, and then at the end they'd have a nice sort of like it's like Cheer Down from Lethal Weapon 2. is
Yeah.
great at the end of that because it's this nice, it makes it feel more epic. Anyways, for art, I'm gonna say like I am conflicted only because Ator is what it is and does that well. I mean, like they did well for what they had and everything looks like natural and stuff because it is natural environments and everything. And Hawk, I love the fakeness of it. I
Yeah.
just because I like the background matte paintings and stuff. They don't
Mhm.
look real, but they do look like out of a painting. Like the whole thing is a fantasy sort of paperback cover, right? I love when things
It
look
felt
like
like
paperback
Kroll, like
covers.
J-Man was saying.
Yeah,
That
it's
even
Kroll,
lends
yeah.
it more to Kroll the way they
Yeah,
did.
and all the goofy laser bullshit I love. I love when Jack Palance gets the daily dose of laser blast to the face.
Yes.
He's like, oh!
Yes.
He's like, and I love the background is just all like glowing red, like a Toei Sunbow cartoon or something. I love that crap, man. The silly string is fun, it happens once, with Death by Silly String. I don't know. I
Oh,
guess back then it was a new thing. Like, oh, what's that? Now we know it's silly string.
it's silly
Um,
string, and I love it.
yeah. I do love the sword with gripping though. I do like it. It's cool. It's like it looks like a big hefty thing. And as you said, it's a real like instrument, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Hawk. So
All right.
whatever.
Wise
Slayer.
choice, sir. Wise
All right,
choice.
Hungry Boy.
Oh, he's on mute. There he
Okay.
is.
You guys all know that I am the retired freelancer from comic books and related illustration here. So when it comes to artistry, this is the section of the program where I'm going to get a little bit cranky and a little bit mean, and I apologize, but I'm also going to be supportive in some ways. So let me just start with my thoughts on Ator, then I'll go into Hawk, okay, and do them separately. So first off, with Ator, the lighting and camera work in this compared to other fantasy films, to put it in comic book terms, is like Squirrel Girl trying to cosplay Red Sonja. It's just not happening. But I know people in film crews, and I know it's really expensive to do to do proper lighting and how much time it takes to set that up. And we had a lot of caves going on in Ator, and it's really difficult to set up lighting in a cave. But decent lighting is part of being a decent artist in film, so I can't give it a pass just because I know how difficult it is. Now let's talk about another part of TNA in fantasy and barbarian films, and that is T&A. Okay, do not imply TNA. If you're gonna have TNA, be like Deathstalker and go for it. Just go for it. Okay, or Conquest, just go for it. Don't pretend to have TNA and a couple of accidental buns showing up when Rune is bending over after extending a sword blow. All right, Hawk the Slayer knows exactly where it's at. We're not doing TNA here. There's going to be no sexual content whatsoever. It's stuck in its lane. So, when it comes to artistry in a film, you have to pick a lane and stick to it. Don't go don't go swerving around the freeway of creativity. Now, shooting day for night is a bugaboo of mine ever since I was a kid. I despise shooting day for night. And Ator kept cramming day for night down my damn throat. And I can't stand that. Okay. Now, when you shoot day for night, when you could do something otherwise, it's like not being able to get it up and stealing your lesbian cousin's vibrator to compensate. It's just not cool and not acceptable. Now, the composition and the blocking of the shots, this is really important in fantasy, particularly in one film, which is so comic book, versus another film, which is so D&D. And sometimes the composition, where the camera is placed, how close it is to the characters, is just really boring. It's really flat, like Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. It's flat. Okay, you need to have more variety of shots. You need to have separate lenses, separate. You need to go more Fulci than just straight on Twilight Zone when you're dealing with this kind of material. So that's what I'm going to say about Ator. Now, with Hawk, this film had guts to do stuff in terms of production value. Like we see ring mail, okay? We see the slave trader, that little awful ogre goblin of a man, and he's got this grotesque caricature of a Morning Star mace. All right. And we all know that great scene we're probably going to be talking about later on when he gets tied up and, the mace is above his face. And if he says one more word, goodbye. So I really enjoyed that in terms of the artistry. I enjoyed the lighting. I thought there were some good upshots with the faces. Although Hawk has better pacing, in my opinion, they sometimes give a chance to breathe when focusing on a character visually. It's not just dot to dash. It seems like they actually took the time to storyboard out the film. And I think if anyone's going to do a low budget genre film, you need to storyboard things out. And a lot of people aren't doing that. I'd also like to mention that the guy who plays Hawk is like, imagine if Avon from Blake 7 had a slightly younger, better looking, but very glam brother. Okay, he looks like
I got shades. I got slightly shades of Avon. I'm rewatching Blake's. We're almost done. Second round.
Right. So and then also this will be my final note on the artistry of Hawk. Okay, and J-Man is going to know exactly what I'm talking about here because we watched some of the same cheap but lovable movies. All right. The really brief scene when they're going through the haunted forest and it's all green with webs, and we have the creatures that look like precursors to ghoulies.
Yeah.
And the troll and these little puppets going in the green webbing in the trees. I really like that. And it just, you really feel like people were concentrating, regardless of the budget, in giving you what they didn't call it back then, but we call it now, an immersive experience.
All right. So Hawk the Slayer.
Yep.
All right, Steve. Where are you at for this one? Are you going Ator or Hawk?
I want Ator.
Oh wow!
Now he's just doing it to do it. I don't believe you. I don't believe you, sir. I don't believe you.
I agree with Sean. I find they're both very close. I like the naturalistic look of Ator. I do like the matte paintings in Hawk. I find the sets for both were pretty good, though I got a little bit more variety, I feel, with Ator than I did with Hawk. A lot of it was outside and stuff, and yeah. I like the cub in Ator, like training that thing, getting that thing to do what it had to do. And this is going to be even more controversial. I prefer the soundtrack, the Ator to Hawk. I found the Hawk felt like it was from, I thought I was watching Flashdance for a while. I'm like, what this music is.
I like Flashdance. I just watched them.
So, I gave them both, if I was doing a proper space review, I gave them both pretty close. And I agree with Charlie. I did notice the wobbly sword. And I was like, oh.
So that can take you out of a movie.
That can take you out of a movie. I agree
really
with that.
does.
I like the, even beginning at the top, the mountains and that while someone is babbling on for far too long. But I just found I liked Ator, the package better artistically.
Are you feeling okay, man? Do you have a bad week?
I feel fine. Yeah.
I gotta ask Mike Stoklasa a question here. Okay, Steve. What did you think in terms of the artistry? Because I didn't bring it up. And what did you think about the 2 arrows per second rapid fire bow?
I actually did not like it. I didn't like it. I did not like it.
I love that.
No, I was like, I knew it was repeating, and it just threw me out. It just threw me off. I was just like, no, and they kept repeating it. I'm like, no. I saw it yesterday, and I'm like, maybe I wasn't in the mood, but I was just sitting there, and I'm like, no, this isn't working for me right now. I prefer what I saw in Ator. I knew the spider would be, you wouldn't see much of it. I was fine with that. I got what I got. I liked the courtyard, what they did it in. It's Ator for me.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so this one, the rest of these, like they're all actually pretty tough for me. This one isn't as obvious for me either because the wobbly sword is crap.
Yeah.
The spider doesn't look very good. You could see, and I have it on Blu-ray. You could see the strings badly.
Yeah.
I can see it on Tubi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worse than any Godzilla movie because you see Mothra strings all the time. But you only if you're really looking do you see Mothra. This one's like, oh yeah, there's strings. Did they even try to?
Yeah, they didn't even try to mark them out.
Yeah, like I don't like that rap. Like, to me, that rapid thing is equally as annoying as the sword. I'm like, but he's not even pulling them out. It's not like it's not the energy thing. It's like, which is obviously magical from Conquest. This is like, he's just going. Psh, 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 psh. It's like, but you're not even.
He's supposed to be fast, though. That's
I know, but if they would have done it,
they set that up at least.
Yeah.
Well, I give you
that, but
right,
at least they explain why they're doing it by going. I never saw him draw the arrow.
I know.
You know, and the other guy having the rapid fire crossbow.
That's fine. That's
but
fine.
because that would usually be in succession, a lot of times it would be Crow, then that guy, Crow, then that guy, and I was like, to me, it worked better when they did them together. Right. When Crow would do like 2 shots back to back, I will agree. I'll concede that like hard cut to be in the exact same movement is a little jarring. But when they did it in succession with the other guy, I was like, fuck, I love this. I love that whole like shooting arrows everywhere.
It's the one big complaint I have with Hawk. I had it in 1981 when I wasn't even I was so young I didn't even need to use underarm deodorant when I saw Hawk the Slayer the first time. Okay, Bananarama was not on the radio when I saw Hawk the first time, and it bothered me then because it just looked so cheap. And I even reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, right? I knew that they had to actually cut the film and splice and make copies, and that it was really difficult. But the point is, if it's going to look like absolute crap, don't waste your time trying to do that effect. And everything else looks so great in the film that when you do that beep, 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 beep with the hand, especially compared to the energy bow and Conquest, it totally jars you and takes you out of the experience you were enjoying up until that second.
Yeah. So totally that's the like, I don't think this is easy. Man, I might still pick Hawk because I'm gonna pick Hawk the Slayer, and the reason I'm gonna pick Hawk the Slayer is that I do like the synth soundtrack, but I like the way that each guy kind of looks. So I'm going by costuming. I do like the He-Man. You know, I like the two. I like Rune and Ator a lot. They look cool, but the Hawk people, I don't know. I just like this big guy with the. I like hammers too, so I'm a sucker for that.
Hammers, man.
Big guy, big bearded guy with the hammer. That's cool. I thought Crow looked. You know what I liked about Crow. We'll get to characters in a minute. What I liked about Crow is that, like he looked like a different. He looked like I don't want to say a realistic elf, but he looked like kind of a guy who is a ranger, and it wasn't like he's an elf because, well, he's an elf and we have to have the elf uniform of Legolas that it's like he's like, I live here and I'm wearing a dirty ass brown thing. It's like that's what I'd be wearing, and I like how he's just on his own and all that. We'll get to characters, but I like the look of each guy.
His hood when he's first introduced, I thought was amazing.
Cool. Yeah, it was cool.
And you're right, it makes him look like that rogue kind of fighter. 100%.
And same with Jack Palance. Jack Palance this is still artistry. He looks cooler than the spider guy.
Yes.
And Hawk looks cool. Like these guys look like your cover or whatever. Like it's like you're like, so, and I do like the music. I like the music for both, but I do the Hawk music. I think the problem with the Hawk music is that it starts up and nothing happens. He's just on a horse like, well, nothing's really going on. You're just on a horse. Like it's a bit weird, but and I don't like the fights that much, but the fights were not great in Ator either. So whatever. So I'm going to go with Hawk the Slayer. I'm going to go with marginal Hawk the Slayer. I almost picked Ator just because everyone's picking Hawk, and I like Ator, so I want to give it some extra points. But I think if I, gun to my head, I'll pick Hawk the Slayer, which leads into characters, and I'll start with characters since I like Hawk the Slayer's characters. That's the strongest thing that it's got. The strongest thing that it has is that Jack Palance is an awesome villain, and he's pretty crazy. I like Hawk. I like the leader guy. He's like, I got a thing to do. I really like. The dwarf, and I like that there's like celebration of what the characters are. So it's like, I'm a dwarf and I like eating weird things, and that's who I am. And he's a fun character. And I like the interplay with those with those two. I think that's really great. I thought Crow was awesome. I would almost say he might be my favorite elf in live action because I know he's a Spock character, but I like that it's like, yeah, I don't have my people. I'm just here alone. And the archery contest, that was so cool with him. And he's just like, okay. And then he's just like, psh, I won. Mine was first. It's like,
Yeah.
What? It's like, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like he's like a stand-up guy. He's just cool. Yeah, I like all the characters. I do like Ator, but it's more like, yeah, you got to train and save your girl. I get it. I was really pumped up for Rune, and when she died, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not happy right now.
That pissed me off.
That actually pissed me off.
Yep.
And it was for no reason. It's like, well, okay, I get it. He's not going to have both of them. But then I'm like, well, your sister's, pretty useless. Like, to be honest, like she's kind of useless. She is very attractive, though. I was like, oh man, she's
attractive, but she's
she's pretty useless. But I was like, man, rude, man. She's got it going on. Plus, she's Okron, so I'm like, that's cool too. So the characters for me in Hawk is like the main thing why it is awesome. To me, Hawk the Slayer's best thing is the characters and their interactions, and that's why collecting them is cool. So I'll pick Hawk the Slayer for characters. I don't know, Steve. I'm very excited about this because if you're saying Ator, this is going to be good because there's just too many cool characters in Hawk the Slayer. Like the villain's good, Hawk is cool, all of his companions are cool. I even didn't mind, the nuns or whatever. Like they're okay. Like they're doing what they got to do for their thing. The guy with the no hand is awesome, man.
Love that dude.
That guy's a cool character. So yeah. Anyways, so Hawk for the characters. Charlie, I know you're gonna say Hawk, so let's just continue on.
Well, it is Hawk, man, because you're right. It's all character building right there. If I have one thing I would say about the characters, and I guess it kind of should be artistry, but I'm going to throw it in characters, is they made a point to say something about Crow being this burned elf, like disfigured almost. And you see him and you're like, he doesn't look disfigured. Yeah. He doesn't look hurt at all. And I've actually rewound it a couple times because I was like, maybe I'm not hearing it right. No, they actually say he's like almost like a black elf, the way they described him, the Oracle, whenever they're going to get him. And I was like, they did like carry through with that. Give him like a badass scar down one side of the face, which would have been cool because Jack Palance is hiding his and Crow have his out like there.
Maybe it was like an internal darkness.
I guess maybe.
Then why say it? Yeah. No, I was confused by that too. I was like, are you talking about Jack Palance or what's happening?
Exactly. Yeah. I checked it again. They said
you're saying Ator, Charlie?
No. God no.
Damn it.
Ator is the only cool character. Now I liked Rune. Was her name Rune? Yeah. I liked her. My only problem with her was she's kind of a dick to him whenever he came and saved her from the raiders. Yeah. And I was like, at least say thank you. Like you weren't like in charge of that moment. And then all I could yell out whenever he got captured by the girls was death by Snoo Snoo the entire time they're fighting. Cause I just felt like he was the guy from Futurama, the captain. And they were just like, we get to screw you and then we'll kill you in the morning. And I was like, good God, no. I liked that he turned her down. That was about the only good thing. His sister sucked, like horrible. The tarantula guy, I was really hoping for some kind of like even mystical kind of ability. He swung a giant sword and he burst into flames. I was like, well, that dude was a waste of character. And even the guy that is the one that saves him, awesome twist, still a bullshit ending completely for him. I was like, you were supposed to be like it. You're supposed to be the guy, the end of the prophecy, and you got stuck in your own fucking spider web, and you're an apostle of the spider. Like, this is stupid. I don't, so his character didn't do anything for me. Hawk I love all of them. The Giant is always my favorite character in this. He is so much fun, but Hawk has a commanding presence. Ator had no idea what his mission was other than save his wife. Well, I'll say wife now. Everyone else controlled what he did because he's on a fulfilling a prophecy. He's got no fucking clue about that because no one ever tells him that's what he's doing. He's just going to go save his wife. And that's how he acts. He acts like, I don't know why everyone's attacking me. I'm just going to go save her. Why are you bothering me? Hawk was, let's go, dude. He was like, you can leave in peace. I was waiting for him to say, or die in pieces. I was like,
Yeah.
one badass action movie one-liner, but it was just, you can
Give
go
us
in
one.
peace, just one. And they chose the hard way, basically, and save his sister wife. There we go. The sister wives. But I liked Hawk's presence in this movie. It was commanding. Jack Palance's of tour de force. You see everything he does in Batman in this thing. I was just waiting for him to talk to his son. He's like, you are my number one.
Yeah.
You know, just something like that would have been like, oh, that's where he got it from, all the way from Hawk the Slayer. But no, it's Hawk on characters because there are characters. They are built well. They have a backstory, and everyone he gets, you feel the respect they have for Hawk. So you don't need to be told they fought together before or have a huge flashback. You get it by the way they respond to, like, oh, Hawk's here. Let's fucking go, dude. Let's get on it. And I love that. I love that about the characters in Hawk.
All right. Let's go Hungry Boy. Which one had the better characters? I think I know.
Okay, foregone conclusion. You right on. Nice anticipation, fellows. Nice anticipation. But yeah, but I have specific reasons for it.
Yep.
I mean, you have to look at also what the aside from what's on the script page, and you can tell going back to, you know, the burned elf thing, but also when Baldwin the dwarf refers to Jack Palance Voltan as skull face, is like, okay, dude, 75% of his face is on screen and untouched. He's not a skull face. I'll let that go.
Right.
But you can tell that was on the script page and they kept it. Right? They kept the line. But let's just look at some beautiful things here. The Oracle, played by Patricia Quinn. That's Magenta from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Most people don't even recognize her at all. So she's putting everything into it, and they gave her the right outfit. So you cannot recognize that as Magenta from Rocky Horror whatsoever. And
you only see like this much of her. You know, it's like,
exactly. And then you've got Bernard Bresslaw, the first great ice warrior in Doctor Who. You don't recognize him either. You don't realize he's from the Carry On films. And as an actor, he may not be a fantasy guy. Very few people were when this was being made, but he's embracing that role and respecting what the script demands of him. And you believe him. It's like, okay, we know he's only 6'6". There's only 5 inches difference of height between him and some of the henchmen he's taking out. But emotionally, we believe, and psychologically, we believe he is a giant in the fantasy, in quotation marks, situation, just like Baldwin the dwarf. We know he's only 10 inches shorter than the rest of us. He's jockey height. He's not a dwarf. But we believe it because what they're bringing to the table and the costuming that goes along with it. The costuming that reflects the mentality and the culture, the presumed fantasy D&D background of these characters. So the giant's got this big metal cuirass. You know, the dwarf is like, screw that. I got a bullwhip. You know what? You aren't going to get close enough to me to have to worry about me wearing armor. Yeah, but look, punk, you're like nearly dying by flame arrows on a raft. You did make some bad decisions in your life. And then with Palance, and this is something that Sean as a writer really understands, the villain is always the linchpin for all the other characters. It's the keystone in the castle that holds the rest of the bricks of the castle up. So you got someone like Palance who's willing to do all that great body language, like the scene in the tent where he throws his adopted son down, and he knows he's reaching for the dagger, and he says, you pull that dagger out 1 more inch and I'm going to kill you. I don't care if you're my son. And he's getting into it, and he's chewing the scenery like Jaws is chewing up someone doing some bad water skiing decisions. But nonetheless, it's the right thing for the movie and the right thing for the genre. And he's not treating it like, okay, I got $8,000 for a weekend to do this. He's bringing the full Jack Palance to it. So for character acting, I got to roll with that. And also, some people say the guy who plays Hawk, he's actually too staid, he's actually too removed. I say to these people, you never read any fantasy novels published between 1976 and 1981, did you? Because this is the way a lot of the male lead characters in fantasy novels were back then. A lot of them. Mm-hmm. So for character, and I'll just close out with this. In Ator, you had concepts that were presented as characters but were not characters, and in Hawk you had characters who were carrying the concepts against the lack of budget, etc.
Fair.
All right. Sean?
It's Hawk. I do like the characters in Ator. I like Rune more than Ator, actually. She's kind of like the Han Solo of that movie. She's pretty cool. But then they kill her, so it's like, I don't know. And the reason they kill her too, the reason they kill her too is stupid. It's like I get that she's a better mate to Ator than the sister, but she could go on her own and have her own adventures. It's like, you know, she's totally her own character, right? So, yeah, and the villain, I wanted him to be awesome, but like, for F's sakes, man, he just sits around and plays with the spiders and stuff, right? I don't know. Like Jack Palance is awesome, and I like that he's an impossible villain, in that like no matter what anyone does, he's gonna kill you. It's like the one guy tries to run away from him, and you figure, oh, that guy's okay, and he just javelins a sword like half-heartedly at the guy. He dies. It's like his son is about to like kill him, and he totally knows that, even though he's facing the other way. It's like, put that thing back now, you know. And I love that kind of crap, man. He's just like, because it makes
adopted.
It makes him more. It makes him more intimidating and formidable. It's like, well, how are you going to kill this guy? He knows every move, you know? So I like that. All the other different characters, I like them. I like all their interplay and stuff that builds the characters up. They don't do that much in movies nowadays. Like in Wonder Woman, when everyone's sitting around the campfire talking, was almost one of the best parts of that movie. And it made me realize, shit, movies don't do this anymore. So,
even though they're 3 hours long, they still don't do it.
Yeah, and still can't develop the character.
Nope.
Like, what's happening?
That's the punchline.
Yeah.
Like
Sean's more of an oracle than the oracles in these movies. I like that.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna give it a Hawk. I'm not trying to like drop on Ator. Like, I've seen it plenty of times. I'm gonna watch it plenty of times more. And all the other movies. I mean, it's one of the most influential series, even though no one remembers it. You know, like, unless you're like a diehard like us. But yeah, Hawk for character, man.
All right, Steve, are you gonna be juror number 8, or are you gonna?
Listen, with both these movies, I feel pretty much the same about all of them for the first 2 categories. I just nudged Ator a little bit more. The only thing I feel very strongly about in comparison of these things is that Hawk the Swear obviously has the better characters.
Right.
All right, he can stay in the tournament, J-Man.
I've got the same thing. I'm very close. But obviously the characters in Hawk. Yeah.
I did want Steve to say Ator, but whatever.
No. I've been giving you my honest opinion all the time, but like,
I'm just giving you
Hawk
shit.
the Swear, because you're asking me to compare Jack Palance and the Royal Shakespeare Company versus a constipated-looking Miles O'Keefe. It's not even. It's not.
There wasn't much brand in that time.
There's
literally believe in brand.
I'm sorry. Rune is obviously better than Ator. At least she has a character, right? Like, at least, and she dies at the end because of basically her greed. She's there for the money, and she actually goes into the room to get the treasure.
Right.
She dies for her greed.
Very cool.
I'm fine with that. Miles O'Keefe as Ator, the man, you can literally see him there trying to remember his lines. Like, someone will say something, and there's this mega pause, and I'm looking at his eyes to see if they're going up to the left or the right to access the part of the brain that's the memory where he's supposed to remember his lines.
Or the cue card, wherever the guy's standing on the side of the camera.
Yeah, on the camera. Like,
leave my sister alone.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's terrible. He's so bland. The only time he shows any sort of a character is at the end when he's like, oh yeah, I gotta go fight the giant spider now. That's the only time, because he could walk away. He's like, no, I'm not gonna walk away. I'll fight the giant spider. Okay, cool. I'll give you that. But Rune is the best character in that movie, hands down. The Spider King or whatever he's called, they hired that actor only because they're like, we're going to cover you in tarantulas. Don't run away screaming. And he was probably the only guy who didn't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And kudos to him, because I wouldn't do it.
Nope.
I would not do it. I'm like, nope.
I wouldn't do a scene with him. That's how I would be like,
no, I'd be the guy way in the background.
Well, you guys aren't going to be an Ator, are you? That's it.
No, I'm not going to be an Ator, and I'm not going to cry over that either.
Man, it's fine. You can always find a good actor that'll have a tarantula crawl on your shoulder. They're actually very cute and very cuddly.
they better have a good insurance plan on that tarantula or some body doubles.
I mean, Arachnophobia is another movie I wouldn't.
This first time me and Stevens agreed all evening.
Yeah.
We're not messing with spiders.
Yeah, not messing with spiders. With Hawk the Slayer, you have Jack Palance, and Hungry Boy said it best. He's chewing up the scenery. He's exactly the villain you need for that movie. He's exactly the villain you want for that movie. He has no compunction. He kills. I do laugh at the fact that his supposed father, is 3 years older than him in real life. I thought that was pretty funny. But Hawk himself is the classic lantern-jawed hero that you expect to be in it. You have a bunch of charismatic British sidekicks who are very, seasoned and know where their place is. I love the interplay between the giant and the dwarf, the conversations. I love the holy chicken. I think that was hilarious.
That was funny.
Did you like the backstabbing nun?
I like the backstabbing nun. I liked pretty much every character hands down in that movie. I thought they had personality. I thought they had charisma, and that was sorely missing from Ator.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so Hawk the Slayer has already won because it's won 4 categories, so it's already done. But we still have enjoyment. So, is there anyone does anyone have anything to add to anything? Steve, did you like Ator more?
No.
Okay, so you're giving it. So did anyone like Ator? I guess nobody liked Ator more than Hawk. Is there anything that anybody wants to add? I would say that I really like Ator a lot. I think it's cool. I'm definitely I'm going to get the poster. I'm going on Redbubble. I'm going to get coasters. They've got Ator coasters.
They got coasters.
They have coasters.
Was amazing for that
movie.
Period. Hands
down.
down.
All of it is completely wrong. His look is wrong. The girl next to him is not Rune, and they have a saber-toothed tiger, not a bear.
What's the weapon he's ringing over his head? That's not in the movie either.
Flail thing. Yeah,
the big flail like Cat of Nine Tails.
It's
not in the movie.
It's like an iconic poster though, man. It's
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be getting the poster as well. As soon as my credit card resets, because I spent a lot already, I'm getting the poster. So I love Ator. I will have that poster. I really like Ator a lot, but yeah, Hawk is I think it's better. I mean, it's got to be it because the characters really. I usually go with characters at the end of the day. So when it's all equal, I'm like, am I pumped up to? I am pumped up to see Ator too, right? I want to see Ator continue, but I noticed that in all of the subsequent ones, none of these characters ever return. It's always just Miles O'Keefe and different.
Yeah.
So I don't even think it's Ator. But Hawk and his guys are really cool. It's you definitely want to see them continue. They did do a comic book, which I passed on because I didn't like the interior art. The cover art was really cool, but I didn't like the interior.
The artwork was weird in it. It's Garth Ennis was doing it, or
could be
who it was that was doing those comics. It has been supposed to have a sequel forever. It's set up for a sequel. They never did it, which blows my mind. Ator technically has 2 other sequels.
Right.
Deathstalker has sequels. All these other movies have. Why did we not get another one for Hawk? There's no reason we shouldn't have got another one. I will say this though. I like J-Man. I want to watch the other Ator movies. I want to give them a chance. I don't want to judge it on this one.
Right.
Because maybe they realize, oh shit, we didn't really do a good job. Let's change it up, but we'll keep this dude because he does look cool
Yeah.
as this character. And so I'm willing to give those another chance. I don't think I'll ever watch this particular one again, though. I don't know if I'll ever watch The Fighting Eagle. I have watched Hawk the Slayer like 5 times now, and I've never gotten bored with it. If there is a line I use among my friends, it's the silly string of doom.
Right.
I adore when I saw that happen the first time. I was messaging my buddy Pete, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. And I was like, I fucking love this movie. Like, if you have the balls to do that and try to be serious about it, I'm in. And I think Ator, they tried too much seriousness, and they tried to be Conan and failed miserably. And yeah, they had low budget. They tried to do this in less than a month because they found out Destroyer was coming out the following year, and they were trying to beat that movie, but they were trying to copy Conan. I mean, you can see that with the witch and with everything he goes through. And I hate when it's just rushed to make a buck. This wasn't a passion thing. Whoever did Hawk, they had a story. Like Hungry was saying, it was storyboarded. They stuck with everything. Even to some of their detriment, they stuck with the script. But they succeeded because they cared about the project. Ator just felt like, we need a Conan movie. Get it out there. We don't care what it is at the end of the day. Get it in theaters. And it comes across in this movie like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to look through my notes, see if there's anything that we missed here.
I feel this is one of our more thorough
like Jeff Wayne. I don't know if anyone's a fan of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, but like I had.
What, for Hawk?
For Hawk, it's like.
Is it the like light effects and maybe some of the sound effects they use?
Like the music is like, I don't know. Yeah, listen to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. It's the damn best.
Are you talking about that wonderful album, that long album?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy, I was lucky enough to have a long-term relationship with a chick who had been loving that since she was 10. She introduced me to that album, and it's just like, and the Richard Burton voiceovers on that album, 100%. Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
Cover.
And that's
and then Liam Neeson they remastered it, and they got Liam Neeson, which he did as good as he could do. Obviously, Burt is awesome, but Liam Neeson was pretty good.
And I mean, I think one of the reasons why Hawk's soundtrack wasn't jarring to me is they went with it. They owned that whole soundtrack throughout the movie. It wasn't like it would just pop in once in a while and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? It was like, this is what you're going to hear throughout this whole movie. And I was cool with it. Like, if he's on a horse, you're like, why is it playing? Once you've watched it 1 or 2 times, you'd be mad that music isn't in there when he's riding the horse. You know what I mean? You'd be like, no, it needs to be there.
It's interesting to bring that up, Charlie, because there was one irritation with one film and one irritation musically with me with the other film. So with Hawk, and I'm just going to say this because of my age, okay, I love it until they break in with a few synth notes that sound like 1979 Gil Gerard disco Buck Rogers, and it bugs the crap out of me.
I'll give you that. I will. There was that moment where I was like, "This is disco." All of a sudden, Like what was Space Mutiny? I was waiting for the disco dance to happen, and Red Brown just come out dancing. I'd have been totally.
And then with Ator, and because I noticed things like this, there are these 3 little flute notes that are like stings or motifs that are directly ripped off from 1960s James Bond. These 3 little flute notes that would come in, and I'm like, no, you sons of bitches, I don't care you're Italian.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Aside from that, I mean, when just at the highlights. I would say Rune only died so we could finally get a black-haired girl be the final girl in a movie.
That is true.
You're not wrong at all. I still say it's so he didn't have to explain her to his wife. I swear to God, that's why they killed her.
But also, just to be serious, my respect. I I think Ator did it for the sales and Hawk did it for the love.
Exactly
Right.
my sentiment. Yep.
All right, Sean, do you have anything to to add? Like we're all saying we enjoyed Hawk more,
than
right?
Ator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I
anything
enjoyed
to
Hawk
add?
more. Ator, I feel like I've seen part 2 more than part 1. I think
Right.
part 2 is the one with the troll from Troll 2. It's the same looking mask and everything.
Oh, cool. I definitely
So
want to watch it now.
yeah. But I was gonna say something about like the soundtrack for Hawk. I think it's admirable. That's so experimental for back then. I mean, like
Mhm.
later on, like you get stuff like Dune and all that stuff where the soundtrack is perfect, right? Like perfect,
Right.
perfect.
Have that soundtrack.
Yeah, with orchestral and electric guitar and all that stuff. But it's kind of shocking. How experimental the soundtrack is for Hawk. I don't know if any other movies at 1979, 1980 that was doing that. You know,
I mean, yeah, because Flash Gordon's later than this, right? 80,
yeah, it's later. It's
81, 82 for
I think Flash
Gordon.
Gordon's 1980.
yeah.
Is it
So it's
80
like the
right
same
on?
time.
I've got that
Yeah.
soundtrack also.
Oh, wow.
I think they were
So
Yeah.
to me, that's what the vibe kept giving me was that Flash Gordonish kind of feel to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Right.
Where they would, Flash Gordon definitely could have dipped into some disco as well. We're not, going to deny that, but
Yeah.
And one other small stupid thing, Dungeons and Dragons: Wrath of the Dragon God, the sequel no one remembers.
I own
with
it.
the blue lip guy, he's back. He's the villain
Yeah.
or whatever.
I've got
that
it.
movie. That movie reminds me a lot of Hawk the Slayer. It's the same kind of thing. Like it's probably a better movie, but like it's they have to gather the guys, and then the dwarf and the barbarian are at each other's throats, but they learn to work with each other and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I remember watching that a few months ago, and I was like, this reminds me a lot of Hawk the Slayer. But whatever. Yeah, no, they're both cool. I'm not trying to like beat up on Ator or whatever.
Hey,
I am.
Chris.
I'll wear that badge, man. I'm beating up on it. You guys,
And I'm
don't
not
have
talking to
to.
Charlie anymore. He's not coming to these anymore. I'm done. No.
That's fine. It's fine. I don't care. It's fine.
It's okay.
I
We
don't have
got.
to watch any more incest movies. It's cool.
Oh
All
my
right.
god! Can't take a little bit of incest? Come on, it's fine.
It was fine in Star Wars, man, because that was accidental. This was, I'm going to convince Dad that.
But
this
they're
is a good
not
idea.
brother and sister.
They don't know that.
But they do.
Charlie,
Inside, they know. They know
Don't-
inside.
I bet he knew inside.
yeah, Charlie, don't watch Splice.
Yeah, don't watch Splice, man.
How new was Splice? What's Splice?
It's
Was there incest and Splice?
yeah, what are we talking about? Like
Which movie? Which Splice movie?
the one where it's a made up daughter, but like she does
She's
the
naked,
dad and
bad.
We're talking about the alien, right?
yeah.
Splice with the where it's like the woman with the
Yeah,
alien.
yeah.
Balls.
She's bald.
Okay, I've seen the cover of that. I've not watched it. It's like a
Yeah.
rip-off
Oh,
cover
you're
of
right.
Species.
You're right.
It's weird.
See that I'm like, yeah, it's fine. No big
J-Man,
deal.
Jesus.
Decent context.
You guys got to walk it off, man. It's
Oh,
2020.
a
It's
little incest
2023.
enjoy.
Not many, was it?
So it makes sense.
We got Steve as Mike Stoklasa. Now we got J-Man as Jay Bauman.
Yeah, I mean it's all good. Okay, so let's take a look. So the winner is Hawk the Slayer, which we knew was going to kind of win. So here's where we're at now. Oh shit, I'm okay. So Barbarians is going to be fighting Hawk the Slayer. Wow,
That's going to be difficult, even for
that's
me.
going to be crazy.
I'm going to be curious to see Charlie on that because he loves both movies. So
Yeah, I'm telling you now, I'm going to be like J-Man was for a lot of the other ones we've done, where I'm going to be like, I can't tell you which one I'm going to pick. It's going to come down to like nitpicking some shit because I love both of those movies.
And Conquest moved in. So do you guys does everyone want to come back next Friday for the two Sorceress movies, Sword and the Sorcerer, or do you need another week? Let me look at my schedule here.
Yeah, better check yours. You're the one that has the tighter schedule than we do.
So what's next week?
We're not
28.
You're doing
doing.
a bunch of Legion stuff
not
with Claudia.
doing
You
the-
might want to push it to next week.
I can go. I can go next Friday, so the 28th.
I could do it.
You want to do
Yeah.
that?
I can do it.
Yeah.
Hungry, you can do it.
Yeah. Everyone's good. Okay. All right. So then here's what's going to happen. Next Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing the Warrior and the Sorceress versus the Sword and the Sorcerer. Now, once we determine a winner from that, we're going to do one stream only to pick the final two.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, do you want to do that the actual way I have it set up on the tournament, what you see on the screen, or do you want to try to do like a round robin where we pick the two best?
Wow.
I like the idea of the round robin. I think because it's just going to be like blah blah blah, like story.
I think
arc.
I agree with you. I think basically we put all four. You're saying all four together, and we just
Right.
Pick
okay.
the final two. Yeah.
Pick the final two. Yeah. So we could do maybe even like, pick the two best stories, pick the
Yeah.
two best pace, the two best
I think that's a
whatever.
good idea.
I'm okay with that.
Wow.
So I'll redo this graphic to make it make sense for everybody for what it is. Like, so
Yeah.
it's like a 4-way round robin. We just pick, because I mean, I don't know. Like, well, Sean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm okay with keeping it as the tournament the way it is, but we never did the round robin thing before. So I don't know. Sean, what do you think?
I think we
and-
should try it just to see if we like it going forward.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see any reason why we can't try it.
And also
It's
for
going to be
brevity.
difficult regardless.
Yeah.
Right.
You're still pitting Hawk the Slayer against barbarians, but now you're adding two other elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still think it's going to be. It may even add a level of difficulty, but again, we're not just going to be rehashing what we've already just talked about. I mean,
Right.
we pretty much talked Hawk as much as we can. We don't need to again when we do barbarians,
Right.
against it. So I actually think the round robin is the better way to go.
I agree.
I was thinking because the whole point of splitting these up was that, you want to have a turn, but now we just talked the four. Well, once we do the sorcerer ones,
Yeah,
we
do
would
that
have talked them
first
to
and then the
death.
others. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now if we do all four versus each other, that's different now. Because now you're picking your two favorites in each category.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really interesting because
Yeah, because
we'll
one
have to
could be
see-
a wild card that really throws a wrench in everything. I mean, I like it because it's going to
Well,
be different than what we did before. I think it's going to streamline it, and we can still get it done in hour and a
90
half, 2
yeah.
hours, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
I
And
think
that's
a
talking
good
about
thing.
4 movies. So
right.
Mhm.
So Hungry, have you seen? Or did you want to? So that won't be the next week. Next Friday we're just doing those two. So are you're good for those now? And then you can let me know at that point if you want to come back for the 4-way.
I probably will. I just want to know what the definition of a round robin is and how that would play out, how we would discuss it.
Well, we'll work out the details on the next stream. But basically, so here you're picking which had the better story between two movies. But if it's all 4, we won't do an actual round robin because a round robin would be each one versus the other,
Yeah.
which would take too long. What we'll do is we'll just pick what's your 2 favorite stories, your 2 best paced movies, your 2 best artistry, your 2 best characters, your 2 best, and then we'll see where everyone's at.
it's
So
a Royal
instead of
Rumble
round
with
robin,
it's a Royal
it's a-
Rumble with 2 winners.
It's a battle
Yeah.
royal.
Yeah,
It's a battle royal. There you
battle
go.
royal. That's better. Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
do wrestling. I don't. It's fine.
Yeah, battle royal. Yeah, so battle royal, it'll be a battle royal between the 4 movies. Then the 2 that win will face each other. I think that's kind of cooler because sometimes in these tournaments, like you're like, you know what, like Deathstalker was better than friggin' Ator. What the shit, right? Like you get stuff like that, right? Where
Right.
it's like, if I'm looking at this, like I would have said Hercules is better than Ator,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but now they got knocked out. But I do think, like, if we're looking at just like, let's say if we're just looking at the left side, I do think that Barbarians and Hawk are the 2 best out of those 4.
Right.
You guys think? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I personally love Conquest, but I also like Deathstalker a lot. And out of these 2, the Warrior and the Sorceress, I have seen hardly at all. Maybe once.
I think I've only seen one of them once.
I have a question. So under this system, this means that technically I might be adding my opinion as to Deathstalker versus Sword and the Sorcerer.
No.
No. It won't be
Deathstalker's eliminated, so it would be like
Deathstalker's out.
Conquested. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Which
So the
I
four-
was my
can you-
votes were for Deathstalker last time, but I was
Yeah.
Oh, no,
can
no,
you
actually,
can you see
sorry.
the screen, Hungry Boy? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke. I mean, so technically I might be weighing up Conquest versus Sword and the Sorcerer.
Possibly.
If Sword and Sorcerer wins, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is once it's the 4 movies, we're gonna just treat that almost as like a new thing where like, okay, let's pick the 2 best movies out of the ones we have. And maybe we won't even do story pace. We'll see if we do story pacing. We'll try that, or we can just say what are the 2 that should go on and what 2 should go back. Maybe something like that, and that could be part of the enjoyment factor. So we'll see how it'll be interesting because I want to see how this works because I've got a lot of ideas. I want to do like I'm trying to get Owen to do the Van Damme one. I want to do like a Schwarzenegger one, and we're talking like we picked the 8 best Schwarzenegger movies, we picked the 8 best Van Dammes, we picked the 8 best. Even if you want to do like the Bonds, maybe the first half of, or
Yeah,
something
I
like
like,
that.
I like the story pacing because I like now it's going to be a point. I think it's going to be a lot closer if you do it that way. If you just
will
say
be closer.
enjoyment, then it's going to be.
We've
more
already
like-
picked our ones we've enjoyed. Really,
Yeah,
I mean,
we've already-
we're
like,
all going to enjoy
like
them.
the best.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
we might as well just do the final right there because it'll be
Right.
like 2 seconds.
Okay, so let's do we'll do it the proper way with the 4 movies all at once.
Yeah.
Once we do, so we're getting ahead of ourselves. But next week, guys, it's going to be the Warrior and the Sorcerer versus the Sword and the Sorcerer. The Warrior and the Sorceress versus the Sword and the Sorcerer. God, that's going to be
You're
a
just going to
lot.
hear me going, David
You know we're gonna
Carradine,
screw this up.
not David Carradine. That's all I'm going to refer to.
Yeah, that's going to be really wonky. Well, we could just use the first thing. So Warrior and Sword. So those
There
are
you
the 2. Right,
I'll do
forget
that.
the
We'll do that.
sorcerer
Yep.
part of it.
That actually works because the sword one is mostly about the sword because it's the 3-blade sword, and Warrior is David Carradine. So
Can you
that
tell
works.
So
we're
it's
all
gonna be
getting older and
Hawk
more
versus
forgetful?
Barbarian versus Conquest versus a sorcerer movie.
Yeah.
TBA to be announced.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shooter. Nice.
That
We
was
got
almost like when we had Mutant versus.
Right. You can't even remember them anymore because they're all the same.
Was
name.
it
Galaxy of
Forbidden
Terror.
War? Galaxy of
Galaxy
Terror.
of
Yeah,
Terror
that's what it
versus
was.
Forbidden World, and
Yeah,
They're the
Forbidden
same
World,
movie.
we were
Yeah,
getting
and
we were getting so confused.
I still have that. I still have that from the winner. All right. So okay. That is it then, guys. I think we'll end it off there. This was pretty good.
Oh
We
yeah,
really like and
this
I
was
think
lively.
this was lively.
We can't all agree all the time. I mean, come on.
I'll give the energy sword here. Or the
I
energy-
like, I like how Steven just tried to be the heel tonight. That's all. That's what I'm saying. I think he just tried to do a heel turn on us.
No.
After Ator lost, Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The only time I was feeling Charlie's angst because that's how I was feeling about Outland versus Battle Beyond the Stars.
Oh.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Remember,
I get
yes.
it. I get it, Charlie.
Outland won that too. So
Yeah.
Here, yeah. Charlie watching Ator.
Actually, I think
Accurate.
it's the Conan one. I think it's the Conan one that's better.
oh my god. Yeah, that was Sean. Sean fell asleep. I'm sorry, man. Like I shouldn't ever be bored in these movies, and that was the most bored I've been out of all the tournaments we've done so far. Like
I agree. and
even the
that's-
movie, I couldn't tell who the good guy and bad guy was. I was bored to tears to Ator.
Man, Charlie, I hear you. It's like the Italians said, "Hey, we do not have the budget for the cute little ferrets like in the Beastmaster. We know
Right.
Charlie's gonna fall asleep, so we got to put in the little Kyogre, the cute bear, to wake him up."
Yeah, so Charlie's like, bear. Okay, cool.
Oh.
He's awesome. Look at him go.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay, I got.
It
Okay,
was
here's
going
the,
so long. I was waiting for the bear to be full size by the time the movie was done.
here-
That's how long this movie.
here's
took.
here's a good one for Charlie.
Accurate. Accurate. I didn't know I had my webcam on the entire time. I wish I was making this up just to be a dick tonight. I am not. That movie sucked.
All right. Well, you know, okay, that's it. I'm okay. That's
Screw all of you.
You know what I find funniest though? I wasn't on it, but wasn't there a stream where we picked the 8 best ones?
and I recall Charles being on that panel.
I was there, but I will say this: I remember Sean had Ator on his list, and he goes, "Can we do the second one instead?" I remember it being better, and I wish we'd have done that, Sean.
And Iron Master, because I was arguing that they're Ator 2 and 3, but not really. They just slapped those labels on them.
I wanted Eric the Viking, damn it, and I think we should have done Eric the Viking.
The Jaws movie franchise has more consistency in it than the Ator franchise.
Listen, if we did my 2 favorite Jaws, if we ranked the Jaws movies, there'd be a lot. People would be very upset with me.
Jaws 3D all the way, man.
It's like at one point in my life, it was. They got better. The first one was boring and nothing happened. And I don't care if those guys died. The second one was slightly better. The third one was awesome because there's an underwater area. I'm like, well, we know that. I'm like, I can't wait for the shark to destroy this thing. And then part 4, that tube. And then I was like, and then part 4 is a masterpiece. But I would say, rewatching them. I would say probably 1, 4, 3, 2. That's my order.
Every film school guy and gal in the world hates you right now.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm tired of these snobs. They didn't share the shark because it's shit. That's why I didn't show it. It's like I'm not scared of sharks. I'm not scared about going in the water. I'm not scared of anything. It's like I want to see a cool monster. Like at this point in time, I've been watching all these Japanese monster movies where they show all these cool. I thought Zygra was a better monster than freaking Jaws. I'm like, at least Zygra had like that. He was like that mechanical fish from Gamera.
Over Jaws any day, right?
Oh, for big time. So Jaws 4 is when it finally, I was like, nah, the series is getting really good now. Now we're getting somewhere.
Now it's hunting people.
Now it's hunting
people.
Almost
psychic. It's awesome.
Jaws 4, the one where he swims from the East Coast to the West Coast. And no one knows how he did. He's like, you went around the Arctic or something like that. The Panama Canal or something like that.
See Orca with one of the right. I mean, or it's like you killed my wife who was pregnant. Okay, you 2-legged piece of crap. I'm gonna chase you down. I was like, I'm the whale. The whale is now Captain Ahab, and I'm chasing you, you hominid mofo. And I'm gonna eat I'm gonna eat your wife. I'm gonna eat your life. It's all done. It's like a killer whale goes WWE. On this guy, this Irish actor, this one of the best actors of all time. It's Orca, man.
That's Orca. They jumped out of the water and did that move. That's exactly what it did.
I mean, you're not a cinema snob if you bring up Orca as great cinema. You know what I mean?
I like Orca. I'm sorry. I did enjoy that.
But Jaws 4 is that was the only one I owned. I'm like, there's no point in owning the other ones. It's like those are just working up to Jaws being cool. Like I do own them all now, and yes, I like Jaws 1, and it's great. But like Jaws 4 is legit better.
It's fun, man.
The real monster in Jaws 1 is Quint.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because he's like, I don't care if you guys are going to get eaten. I need to face off with the porker. This is my personal need. Every other human being on the planet right now is expendable. He's like Magneto, 1968. Everyone is expendable. You are my Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. You don't know how soon I'll throw you in the water as chum if I can get that porker.
He totally would have done that to Richard Dreyfuss. Give him a second. He totally would have tossed him in the water.
He threatened to blow his ass out through that hole.
Yeah, he did.
Very mean. Okay, before we go, let's check the poll real quick. 71%. So there were 7 votes. 71% went for Hawk, and 29% went for Ator.
So you went logging into all your other YouTube accounts.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Well, you missed the best one. If you're trying to watch a Jaws movie for drama, then watch a drama movie.
Yeah.
I'm watching a Jaws. The problem with the Jaws movies is that when I finally watched that, everyone's like, it's super scary and all that. I'm like, yeah, I'd already watched like all the Friday 13th movies that are out, and like I watched all of the. I don't know when Jaws came out, but I didn't see it when it come out. By the time I watched Jaws, I had seen all these crazy horror movies. I watched them like, just it's a shark. Like I don't get it. And then and it's like, well, it's about the characters. I'm like, yeah, but they're just boring. Like they're just it's like I don't care about them.
The
and
first
then
time I ever saw Jaws was when he come out of the hologram in Back to the Future. That's the first time I ever saw Jaws before I watched the movies.
Right.
So, yeah, I was.
Well, part 4 was a killer. It was actively looking for guys to nail. Like, oh, this is cool.
It was awesome.
This is cool. Yeah.
Steve is just sitting there with his hands steepled, looking at us like Lex Luthor.
I am surrounded by morons.
This will be a lot easier than I thought it would be. What? That's
awesome.
I love that Shooter bailed out. Look, Jaws 3 was the best up until Jaws 4, because Jaws 3 had that underwater area. I'm like, well, Jaws is just breaking through this. Like, this is just obvious.
And it was in 3D. So, I mean, even if you didn't watch it in 3D, all the 3D things that happen are just awesome in a movie. Like, period. It's coming right at me. It was awesome.
It is awesome. All right, guys. Well, that is it. I've put everyone's links to all their channels in the description of this video, plus all my other videos, and in the chat. So if you just started watching, you can see they're all in the chat, but they're in the description. So we're going to be all together 1 week from today. And next up, it's going to be Clobberin Times and Sean and myself talking about the next 2 appearances of the Legion of Superheroes. So that's going to be this Monday, and then Steven and I on Wednesday. So that is it. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thanks, guys, for joining me. This is a lot of fun. So we'll see you in a week and do this sorceress crap. All right. Until next time.
Hey friends, you've just been listening to J-Man, and he is the smartest person who ever lived. So make sure you like and subscribe.